Both units were born from the same failure, the same day, the same dead bodies, the same 11 Israeli athletes murdered at the Munich Olympics in 1972. Germany watched it happen on its own soil. France watched it happen on television. And both countries asked the same question. If this happens to us, who do we send? The answer, in both cases, was nobody. Within months, both nations began building something new. Germany created GSG-9. France created the GIGN. Two countries, two philosophies, two very different machines. Each one would be tested on an aircraft full of hostages with the world watching. GSG-9 was founded on the 26th of September 1972, 2 weeks after Munich. The man chosen to build it was Oberstleutnant Ulrich Wegener, a 43-year-old border guard officer who had been standing at Munich airport that night and watched the rescue attempt collapse. But here's the detail that shaped everything. GSG-9 became, Germany could not use its military against civilians. It was written into federal law, a restriction born from the memory of what happened the last time Germany used soldiers on its own streets. So GSG-9 was built as police, not military, part of the Bundesgrenzschutz. Wegener's own words, "We are no killer troop. What we need are disciplined, sober-minded men who by speed and decisive action make their weapons superfluous." Wegener trained with the Israelis. He brought their methods back to Germany and adapted them to police rules of engagement. A unit trained to kill, but built to arrest. By April 1973, 30 men were operational, based at St. Augustin, near Bonn. 5 years of anonymity, and then the phone rang. Across the border, in France, the same process was happening in parallel. On the 3rd of November 1973, a 29-year-old Gendarmerie lieutenant named Christian Proutot was given an assignment. Build a unit, counter-terrorism, hostage rescue, start now. The GIGN was born with 15 men, 15. Proutot trained them personally. His founding principle was the mirror image of Wegener's: save lives, without taking lives, by using the minimum necessary force. But there was a critical structural difference between the two units. GSG-9 was police, civilian police under civilian law. GIGN was Gendarmerie, military status, under the Ministry of Defense. Same mission, same enemy, completely different legal framework. And that difference would shape how each unit fought when the moment came.
Almost there. Stay low.
The moment came for Germany first. October 13th, 1977. Lufthansa Flight 181, a Boeing 737 named Landshut, takes off from Palma de Mallorca, bound for Frankfurt. 86 passengers, 5 crew. 30 minutes after takeoff, 4 militants from the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine stand up from their seats. They are wearing Che Guevara t-shirts. They are holding pistols and grenades. Their leader calls himself Captain Mata Mahmoud. His real name is Zohair Youssef Akache. He's 23 years old. He forces his way into the cockpit and orders the pilot, Captain Jürgen Schumann, to change course. What follows is 5 days of airport hopping across the Mediterranean and the Middle East. Rome, Larnaca, Bahrain, Dubai, Aden.
Approaching from the east.
The hijackers want the release of 11 Red Army faction terrorists from German prisons and $15 million. Chancellor Helmut Schmidt calls the British Prime Minister. 2 men from the SAS are dispatched, Major Alistair Morrison and Sergeant Barry Davies. They carry something that has never been used in a real operation: stun grenades, flashbangs. Nobody knows if they will actually work on a live target in a real aircraft. Morrison and Davies join Wegener and his 30 operators. They shadow the hijacked plane from country to country. In Dubai, they rehearse an assault on an identical 737 sitting on the tarmac. But Dubai allows the plane to take off before they can act. The next stop is Aden, and in Aden, everything changes. Captain Schumann is allowed to leave the aircraft to inspect the landing gear. He speaks to Yemeni authorities. He asks them to help. They send him back. His last words to the Yemeni official, "I am returning now. I am sure they will kill me." When Schumann returns to the aircraft, Akache forces him to kneel in the first-class cabin, in front of 86 passengers, and executes him with a single shot to the head. Co-pilot Jürgen Viator takes the controls. The plane flies to Mogadishu, Somalia. The hijackers set a final deadline, 2:30 a.m., October 18th. If the prisoners are not released by then, they will blow up the aircraft with everyone inside. Now here is the question. How do you storm a Boeing 737 on an open runway at night without the hijackers killing everyone before you reach the door?
Yes.
The answer Wegener designed was built on 3 elements: timing, distraction, speed. At 2:05 a.m., Somali troops light a large fire on the tarmac, 100 yards in front of the aircraft. 2 hijackers move to the cockpit to assess the situation. At the same time, the control tower calls the hijackers by radio, telling them the prisoners are on their way. While the hijackers are distracted, Wegener's 30 operators and the 2 SAS men creep toward the aircraft from the rear. They carry ladders. They are dressed in dark civilian clothes. They reach the wings undetected. At 2:07 a.m. precisely, the emergency exits over both wings are blown open. Barry Davies throws 2 stun grenades, one over the wing, one over the cockpit. The flashes detonate. The aircraft fills with light and sound. The operators pour in through the hatches. They find the hostages. They find the hijackers.
Get back in the aircraft now.
7 minutes. 3 hijackers killed, 1 captured alive. She would later be sentenced to 12 years in prison. All 86 passengers rescued, not 1 hostage harmed. And Jürgen Schumann, the pilot who knew he would die when he walked back onto that plane, was the only person aboard who did not survive. Operation Feuerzauber, Fire Magic. 7 minutes that turned GSG-9 from an unknown police unit into a global standard for counter-terrorism. When word of the rescue reached Washington, President Carter asked his advisors a single question. Do we have the same capability as the West Germans? The answer was no. Within a year, Delta Force was created. Now, 17 years later. Christmas Eve, 1994. 4 men in blue uniforms walk onto Air France Flight 8969 at Houari Boumediene Airport in Algiers. They look like Algerian presidential police. They carry Air Algérie identification. They board the Airbus A300 before anyone suspects anything is wrong. 220 passengers, 12 crew. Then the uniforms come off. Underneath are AK-47s, Uzis, explosives. They are members of the GIA, the Armed Islamic Group of Algeria. The Algerian civil war is at its worst, and these 4 men have a mission that nobody yet understands. They start checking passports. Then they kill an Algerian police officer. Then they kill a Vietnamese embassy attaché. Then they find a French embassy cook, make him plead into a microphone for his life, and execute him. 3 dead within the first hours. Their demands? The release of imprisoned Islamist leaders. But French intelligence has an informant inside the GIA, and the informant sends a message that changes the entire calculation. The real plan is not a hostage exchange. The real plan is to fly the Airbus into the Eiffel Tower. December 26th, 1994. 7 years before September 11th. The Algerian government refuses to let the plane take off for 2 days. Finally, after France applies pressure, The aircraft departs Algiers, but the hijackers do not know that the plane does not have enough fuel to reach Paris. The captain tells them they must refuel in Marseille. At 3:33 a.m., Air France Flight 8969 touches down at Marseille-Provence Airport. The GIGN is already there, 51 operators, waiting. Their commander, Captain Denis Favier, has been planning the assault since the hijacking began. But Favier has a problem that Wegener did not have in Mogadishu. An Airbus A300 is not a Boeing 737. Larger, more doors, more places for hijackers to hide, and it is wired with explosives. The hijackers requested 27 tons of fuel, when only 9 were needed for Paris. They intend to turn the aircraft into a flying bomb. Favier's teams use eavesdropping devices and infrared to map all 4 hijacker positions. The GIGN uses negotiations to manipulate the situation. They persuade the hijackers to prepare for a press conference. This forces the passengers toward the rear, away from where the assault teams will enter. At 5:17 p.m., Favier gives the order. 3 mobile staircases race toward the Airbus, 3 teams of 8 operators each. They carry Heckler & Koch MP5s and Glock 9mm pistols. And here is where something goes wrong. The first staircase reaches the forward right door, but it is positioned too high. The reason? The GIGN had rehearsed their entry on an empty A300 during the flight from base. An empty aircraft sits higher on its landing gear than a loaded one. The suspension difference means the door is lower than expected. For several critical seconds, the operators cannot enter. One operator is left hanging as the stairs are repositioned. The hijackers see the staircases approaching. They open fire. One hijacker is killed instantly. The rear teams breach simultaneously and begin evacuating passengers toward the tail exits. Inside the cabin, over 1,500 rounds are fired in 17 minutes. Stun grenades, smoke, AK-47 rounds punching through the aircraft's skin from inside. One GIGN operator, Thierry Pugno, is shot through the arm by an AK-47 round. Another operator's life is saved when a bullet hits his pistol instead of his body. The pilot climbs out of the cockpit window and drops to the tarmac. GIGN snipers on the airport rooftops fire into the cockpit, targeting the remaining hijacker barricaded inside. The shooting stops. The pilot's voice comes over the radio. All terrorists are dead. 4 hijackers killed. 9 GIGN operators wounded. 173 hostages saved. The aircraft, riddled with bullet holes, was written off and never flew again. And the entire assault was broadcast live on French national television. Millions watched it happen in real time. So what separates these 2 operations, beyond 17 years and 1,000 miles? The core difference is doctrine. GSG-9 in Mogadishu operated on the principle of absolute surprise, no warning, no shooting until the operators were inside. The stun grenades, used in combat for the first time in history, gave them 3 to 5 seconds of total confusion. 7 minutes. Almost no shots fired by the assault team. The operation was silent until the doors blew open, and over within the time it takes to boil water. GIGN in Marseille fought a sustained engagement. 17 minutes of continuous fire, over 1,500 rounds. The hijackers were armed with AK-47s and explosives. They fought back, hard. The GIGN took casualties, 9 wounded, but kept pushing. They cleared the aircraft section by section, while simultaneously evacuating 200 passengers under fire. Both operations rescued every surviving hostage. Both operations killed the hijackers. Both proved that the units built from the ashes of Munich worked. But the philosophy beneath is completely different. GSG-9 was built to end it before it starts. Speed, precision. One moment of controlled violence, then silence. Police philosophy. Minimum force. Arrest if possible. GIGN was built to endure. If surprise fails, keep going. If the plan breaks, adapt. Military philosophy. Accept casualties. Do not stop until it is done. Both operations contained a moment where everything could have gone wrong. In Mogadishu, it was the bonfire distraction. If the hijackers had not moved to the cockpit, the approach would have been detected. In Marseille, it was the staircase. Those few seconds of delay could have cost lives. Both units absorbed the error and continued. One thing more, Ulrich Wegener, the man who built GSG-9 and personally blew open the front door in Mogadishu, died on the 28th of December 2017. He was 88 years old. Germany's interior minister called him an outstanding policeman who did enormous amounts for Germany's security. He was never called a soldier because he never was one. Dennis Favier, the man who commanded the GIGN assault in Marseille, went on to become a general. In 2013, he was appointed Director General of the entire French National Gendarmerie. He still gives interviews only in silhouette, because the surviving associates of the hijackers he killed are believed to have placed a bounty on his head. 2 units, 2 aircraft, 2 outcomes that look the same on paper, every hostage saved. The difference is in how they got there. 7 minutes of silence in the dark, or 17 minutes of sustained fire in front of a television audience of millions. Same question, same answer. 2 completely different languages. In the next video, we go where both of these units have never been invited. Behind the Iron Curtain. Poland's JWGROM, the unit that was built in secret, trained by the SAS and Delta Force, and deployed before NATO even knew it existed.